the idea that you are comparing yourself to somebody who has actually been railroaded by an apartheid system is just nuts and frankly like offensive.
No, you're the one making the comparison, not me. I didn't bring up Nelson Mandela. You did.
Like you're saying right now, you were railroaded by an all-white jury who for an oppressive regime.
No, I hear it again. You're putting words in my mouth. I never said that either. The jury had some representation from African Americans. So what I'm saying is that I was thrown in prison and spent nearly 8 years in prison for practicing politics, for seeking campaign contributions without a quid pro quo. No express quid pro quo. And if I was given the same standard Senator Menendez was given, I could very well have been in the U.S. Senate instead of where I was. Now, I'm not complaining that I'm not in the Senate, but I am complaining that I was sent to prison by a handful of corrupt prosecutors who are abusing their power. They're uncontrolled, and they're the ones that Chief Justice Breyer talked about when he said that our country is in trouble because of these uncontrolled prosecutors who can do just about anything they want to do and are using their power to go after government officials for what he called routine practices.
Okay, let me just ask you that. So you're saying it's corrupt prosecutors. Do you know who the guy is who actually approved the wiretap, phone tap on you was? It was Michael Mukasey, the Attorney General at the time. He's actually a Trump supporter now, a Trump defender. He was a George Bush appointee. So the idea that he's one of the corrupt prosecutors, the guy who actually tapped your phones and actually gathered all the evidence.
No, I think he signed off on what the prosecutor was
ruled by Ron.
I think that he was given some information and he agreed to do the wiretaps, and then they had wiretaps that if they played all the tapes, which they didn't do, they put a seal order on the tape, wouldn't allow me to play tapes in court. I'll take a tape that they made that proves that everything I'm saying is true about what they did to me. I think it was almost very different.
So, but okay, well, here's where your argument to me doesn't really hold up. You're saying it's these corrupt prosecutors who tricked the jury, who didn't allow.
They lied to the jury. They lied to the jury.
Okay. Yes. You're the one that's actually been convicted of lying to the FBI, though, by that very same jury. But just hear me out here. What I don't understand is, let me just remind you, it wasn't prosecutors who convicted you, found you guilty. It was actually a jury who found you guilty, and that's our system. You also then were able to appeal, and you appealed to the circuit court, and twice, I believe, and they actually upheld your conviction. So other judges, a higher court, the U.S. Seventh Circuit, they looked at the evidence again. They said it was overwhelming. That's a quote. They upheld your conviction, and then you twice had the opportunity to apply to the Supreme Court to hear your arguments. And you know what? They refused because they said your argument doesn't hold up. The very argument you are making right now was looked at by the Seventh Circuit, by the Supreme Court. It was heard in the courtroom, and no one bought it. The Illinois Senate unanimously voted to remove you. Everyone in the Illinois House also voted, Democrats and Republicans, to impeach you, except for one person. You know who that was? Your sister-in-law. I mean, give me a break.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. That you don't seem to have. First and foremost, when a prosecutor comes out and arrests a sitting governor with a SWAT team and announces a big lie, the sale of the Senate, which incidentally was reversed by the appellate court.
Correct.
They ruled that the discussions about the Senate seat were routine politics law work.
They still upheld your conviction. They upheld your conviction.
They did not. They reversed those charges.
Those charges? You know what? How many charges you have against you? Like 15, 16? Yes. They threw out a couple of charges. If there were still enough charges for a judge to then look at and say, you know what? The sentence still stands. But go ahead.
Let me ask, do you know what those charges were that were upheld? Do you know what they were and what they involved? Do you, Anderson? Because I can tell you if you don't.
Yeah, I actually do.
Requests for campaign contributions.
Right. So
Yeah, it's extortion if there's evidence of a quid pro quo, of an express quid pro quo.
You don't have to. You're
promising someone
to
else
extort somebody. To extort somebody, you don't have to say, "I am now extorting you. I am now going to threaten you. I am now going to promise you something, a quid for a pro." I mean, it doesn't work that way.
It does work that way. The United States Supreme Court in 1991, the highest court in the land, Anderson, established the rules for fundraising. And they said that routine political requests.
That was the argument you made in court. That this was
only bribery or extortion. And it's only a crime if there's an express quid pro quo, one thing for another. There was never evidence of that. They never proved that. They simply said that if there's a connection in the mind of somebody, that is the standard. The standard used, I have to make this point.
Okay, go ahead.
The jury made the right call based upon the fake law that the prosecutors gave them. They used the standard against me that the Supreme Court in the McCormick case said was not the law. Think about that. They used a standard the Supreme Court said was not the law. How different is that from using from a dirty cop finding a murder weapon and frame an innocent man?
Okay, all of this sounds good on TV.
It's all true.
Okay, it all sounds good on TV, and to people who haven't actually looked at this. But you know what? The jury actually looked at the evidence. Actually, you had two juries looking at evidence. You also have now had the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals looking at the evidence, and they said it was overwhelming against you. And they do know the law. And on top of that, the Supreme Court it was looking at this great injustice that you're talking about, and they said, you know what? Twice, we're not going to look at this because you know what? No, it should stand.
Okay, I answer that. The Supreme Court only takes 2% of the cases. It's very hard to get into the Supreme Court. Now, with regard to the appellate court,
nice.
Disappointing that they would uphold an unlawful standard. I would simply say to your viewers and to you, take a look at the McCormick case, 1991. It establishes the standard. Senator Menendez was given the lawful standard, and his case was ultimately thrown out by a judge. They used the standard the court said was not the law, and that is basically a dirty cop finding a murder weapon to frame an innocent man. And then you talk about the primacy of the Supreme Court. Let me remind you that in 1857, the best judge in America, Chief Justice Taney, said that Dred Scott, a black man, was not entitled to the same rights as anybody else. And so
all that grows must also wither and die. What dies and rots will then nourish the living. This is the great cycle of being, and we, the priests of Rathma, use our dark art to protect it. Though most do not understand us, we go where we are needed. My master has learned that a star fell in the west, drawing the dead from their graves. He commands me to journey to Tristram and return them to their rest. For if the cycle is not upheld, it would mean the end of all things.
So it's a little ironic and frankly a little sad and pathetic and hypocritical. You talking about, commuting, you get a constitutional sentence, which is within the president's right, but you ignore a whole hell of a lot of other people who are hoping you might give them clemency when you actually matter. So actually, you know what? I'm happy it wasn't a question, it was a statement. I'd be happy to work with people on criminal justice reform, but I wouldn't work with you.
Okay, can I answer that statement and question? Okay, I'll make address that. Look, when you've been put where I was, and you have all the time that I was given to think and look back on some of the things you might have done different, that's certainly an area that you talked about that I certainly wish I would have done more on. There's no question about that. They're some of my biggest regrets. I didn't know how corrupt the criminal justice system was until they did it to me. And that was a wake-up call. Having said that, I want to say one thing about
I have come to aid these lands. Where is the fallen star?
It fell on the old cathedral. There was only one survivor, Leah. We should speak with her. Captain Rampant, more dead are coming. We can't open the gates until we drive them back.
I didn't do nearly enough. It wasn't a priority. I was acknowledged that. I didn't go to the office every day doing that. Instead, I was getting healthcare to all the children, through public transportation to our seniors, and we would save my people.
I'm going to get hospital if you want to take your care.
fight like that before. Guards, open the gates. We'll find Leah at the Slaughtered Calf Inn.
I ordered it before that happened, and they got it while I was governor. That is not factual.
Okay. Governor Blagojevich, I do wish you the best. I really am glad for your family that you're out. And
I don't know, by the way you were asking me questions. I'm sorry, honestly, I appreciate it.
But just honestly, I just look. I have no problem with you getting out. I think the president can do whatever he wants. I just think I wish you're besmirching prosecutors who actually
those corpses before
who
they
are no
rise
longer
again.
in government, but prosecutors are important in our system, and you are going after the very basis of our justice system, which has plenty of problems. But part of the thing is you do have an obligation to at least admit what you did wrong. And you refuse to do that, and you're creating a whole new alternate universe of facts. And that may be big in politics today, but it's still, frankly, just bullshit. We've got to leave it there.
Well, no, it's not bullshit. I lived it myself. It's not bullshit at all.
Thank you, Governor.
Okay, thank you.
Well, up more ahead tonight, much of it is breaking news. What the president said today about
Are you here? Did you survive the Foreign Star?
I did, but it blasted my uncle Deckard Cain into the depths of the old cathedral. I tried to search for him, but the dead were already rising. I came back here to rally the militia.
Also, and breaking news that concerns Force Bloomberg campaign for women. Closure leaders talked about their complaints yesterday.
This is killing business.
This guy's drunk. This guy's drunk.
We're getting iconic photos. Amazing. It's about finding the city's dead.
The dead will overwhelm us all unless something is done.
It's about making discoveries
That is why I am here.
Thank you. You should speak with Captain Rumford at the gate. He can tell you what to do.
Now go see it on CNN. In association with Turkish Airlines.
Cristiano Mansour, in Jerusalem, Afghanistan. I'm Cristiano Mansour, in Iran, with elements of the Galilee in Israel. As God's child, people were still marching. Here we are in Avila, a village that has not had any food.
I will bring peace to the risen dead.
I admire your courage, but Captain Dalton and the militia were slaughtered by those things. Only I survived.
I have experience in these matters.
Well, I have seen you fight. Strike at the wretched mothers and their queen. They're the ones vomiting out these horrors. They're attacking the barricades!
Mr. President, do you not think that the constant distrust of your administration on the issue of violence has to go dangerous precedent?
That's one of the wretched mothers. There are more of them in the ruins down the road.
100,000 plus deaths. You still have huge dreams. They didn't take that away from you.
They only can shoot a body, and they cannot shoot my dreams.
I wonder whether you ever think that other countries can learn from what you did. I'm sure you must be their first African president. Oh, of course not. Mr. President.
I, Deckard Cain, have spent many years traveling and writing about the strange creatures in our world, but the sight of the wretched mothers still haunts me. They are the remnants of Queen Asilla's slaughtered handmaidens who were twisted by foul magic. Now they feast upon cadavers and regurgitate them as newly formed, risen dead. I will never forget the first time I saw these horrors shambling out of the misty woods. Our loved ones, buried long ago, rose from their graves and began to attack the living. However, the risen dead were only the beginning.
This is the story of our amazing planet.
But the ending is uncertain.
The scales are tipping, and not better. We must find the blueprint for a sustainable future. Call to Earth. A breakthrough CNN and Rolex partnership.
We have to find new ways to reduce the impact of our global warming. It's going to take all of us working together.
We're connected. Self-engaged global conversations. Help empower communities to create solutions and inspire change.
This is CNN's Call to Earth.
This is what I call the Earth. What's yours?
changemakers. Impact communities. Transform lives. This week, highlighting some of the biggest changemakers on the continent.
By conducting important conservation research, we are able to attract interest about these animals.
African hosted changemakers.
Not enough
on
essays.
CNN, in association with Glow. Sport revolutionary efforts to Vladimir Putin from a man whose 2020 campaign was help on the U.S. intelligence. That man, however, is not President Trump. In this case, he's Bernie Sanders. Shortly after the Washington Post reported today that he'd been briefed by intelligence officials on his interference, Sanders had been
The American people and the Republican Democrats are sick and tired of seeing Russia and other countries interfering in our elections. The intelligence community has been very clear about it.
According to the Post, it's not yet clear what form the interference has taken or to what final end, though in 2016, you'll recall, the Russians were involved in sowing dissension within the Democratic primary to help candidate Trump get elected in the general election. We already know that the intelligence community has concluded that they are working to do it again right now on the president's behalf, which, keep him honest, brings us to President Trump's reaction. Because regardless of who you think should or shouldn't be president, it is self-evident that any president or any candidate faced with such a challenge would say something similar to what Senator Sanders did today. And in a sitting president's case, would actually act on it. Well, as we've been seeing play out, the president has indeed acted on it in the way you would think any president would. He's fired his top intelligence official, acting director of national intelligence, Joseph McGuire, for having the temerity to allow the House members who actually have oversight responsibility in the matter to be briefed on all of this. Figuratively speaking, the president he's fired him. But for how seriously he takes the threat to the country and democracy, well, we'll let the president speak for himself.
I see these phonies, these do-nothing Democrats. They said today that Putin wants to be sure that Trump gets elected. Here we go. Did you see it? No. Aren't people bored? I was told a week ago, they said, they're trying to start a rumor. It's disinformation. That's the only thing they're good at. They're not good at anything else.
Well, he also, once again, called this all a hoax, which at least means he's consistent. Here he is 2 summers ago, reacting to reports at the time from his own director of national intelligence, Dan Coates, that Russia was still trying to undermine our democracy, reacting while standing next to the perpetrator himself, Vladimir.
My people came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President
took the
Putin.
treasure.
He just said it's not Russia. I don't think that's the way it would be.
Not only did the president publicly side with Putin over Coates and the intelligence community, he also got rid of him. He also got on this with his FBI director, former acting attorney general, and his former Russia expert whom he fired after she testified in the impeachment hearings and warned against falling for Russia's cover story.
Based on questions and statements I've heard, some of you on this committee appear to believe that Russia and its security services did not conduct a campaign against our country, and that perhaps, somehow, for some reason, Ukraine did. This is a fictional narrative that has been perpetrated and propagated by the Russian security services themselves.
The president, as you know, has been pushing that exact same cover story. The question is why. I've heard his defenders say it's because he cannot tolerate any suggestion this election was tainted, but with all due respect, who cares? He didn't take an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the purity of his victory or his own feelings. He swore to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. And so the public servants that he's fired, apparently for nothing more than trying to live up to first say orders. Now, a lawmaker who was in on the briefing that apparently cost the acting DNI his job. He's a Connecticut congressman, a Democratic Congressman Jim Hines. Congressman, you see the president calling this assessment from his own intelligence officials a disinformation campaign. I know there's a lot you can't say, but how does this come and square with what you have been told about the facts?
Edison, I can't obviously talk about what was said behind closed doors. There's obviously a lot of media reports out there. I can certainly say, the way the president articulated it, blaming the Democrats for another hoax. Again, I can't confirm who said what. The Democrats aren't saying anything here. You got a bunch of news reports about what might have been said in in that meeting. But look, we should unpack that a little bit, right? What was or wasn't said in that meeting isn't all that important. We can come back to that. We can talk about why the Russians might have an interest in Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump. It's not about them as individuals. It's about creating schisms, about creating divisions in our politics. But what's really important is what you were talking about there.
Thank you for your help. Could you talk some sense into Lee? She won't give up on the idea of rescuing her uncle.
Interesting. If he lives, his knowledge could prove
We've
useful.
seen this movie before when presidents or when people in power want the intelligence community to say something. We saw it in the Bush administration, in which the CIA and George Tenet, the director of the CIA, famously characterized the existence of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq as a slam dunk, because that's what the Vice President Dick Cheney and the President wanted to hear. And there are thousands of Americans and many hundreds of thousands of people who paid with their lives for that bastardization of intelligence. So that's really the concerning thing about this story.
There is reporting that Republicans on the committee challenged the conclusions from intelligence officials. That would obviously be consistent with the interference that some of them had run before the president since he took office. How seriously do you believe House Republicans are taking this?
Well, you know, it's a serious thing for them, right? You know, we saw in the impeachment proceeding how all of the Republicans in the House and almost all the Republicans in the Senate are cowed by this president. They need to do what this president wants them to do, or they lose their jobs. That's the dynamic on Capitol Hill right now. Many of these folks are good people who, behind closed doors, express a lot of concern about what the president does. But they know that if they step out the way Mitt Romney does, they will be treated by the president and by conservative organizations the way Mitt Romney was treated. So, but again, this really isn't about Donald Trump. This isn't about Bernie Sanders. This is about the fact, I believe to the core of my being, that the Russians are going to try to do exactly what they did in 2016, again in 2020. And why wouldn't they? The President of the United States didn't hold them accountable for it. You know, there's really never been any accountability other than a few indictments, other than the intelligence community sort of showing that we know what happened, and the president then denying it. There's really never been accountability for the Russians for what they did in 2016.
Yeah, and doing it again apparently. Congressman Hunt, appreciate it. Thank you. The former director of National Intelligence joins us next with the argument.
I will help you find your uncle, Leah.
We'll need to open the cathedral first. The guards locked it up before they were ambushed. Rumford told me they fought their way back to Adria's hut. The key must still be there.
He's one of Bollywood's biggest stars, and this month on Top Asia, we speak to Saif Ali Khan about his wildly popular drama. What's your drama about?
Here, let me open the gate.
Filming in Mumbai, his hometown.
Adria was my mother, but I don't know much about her. She died when I was very young. I was raised by Uncle Deckard.
Did you know your father?
I'm told he was a great warrior and was lost when Tristram fell to the ground.
And now, a moment of wonder from Great Big Story.
Hi, I'm Aaron Yoder. I'm a backwards runner. I have the world record for the fastest smile ran backwards. My fastest backwards smile time is 5 minutes and 54 seconds. I've been running for over 20 years. I ran so much that I sustained an injury. My doctor told me to stop running.
She was a witch,
really didn't
but I never believed it.
So I knew I had to make some sort of change. In a world where everyone goes forward and I'm going backwards, it really allowed me to just get
I have long waited for this knowledge.
For more stories like this, visit GreatBigStory.com. All new Inside Africa. Unlocking the mysteries behind the continents you thought you knew. This is the search of the elusive African manatee.
Without understanding this animal, it's very difficult to work to save it.
Here's the key. and my mother's journal. What I've seen of it is disturbing. I want to know more about her, but that can wait. We need to save Uncle Deckard first.
Leave that to me. You'd best stay and learn what you can.
Thank you.
Aiden came to me last night. I suspected what was lurking within his troubled heart. I consoled him as best I could. Regardless, wherever he's headed, hell will surely follow in his wake. The shadows close in on Tristram once again. But like Aiden, I'll be gone before they fall.
Business is all about making connections.
This soul is not yet at rest.
But some connections With CNN Market Hotel, the world is always at your fingertips. CNN Market Hotel, connected to your world.
We live in such a fast-paced world where the news has been we need that daily appointment with viewers around the world to try and sort through the news of the day. What's
Tristram
important? Why does it matter to me? How do I put it all in context? We follow the news as it happens and where it happens. We need to step back to that is the mission of Hologram tonight.
I'm Arwa Damon in Idlib province, Syria, and this is CNN.
More tonight's breaking news: retired Admiral William Great, former commander of U.S. Special Operations, just weighed in on the firing back in 1989 just Wire. He writes, quote, "As Americans who speak good men and women can't be true. Facts are inconvenient, but integrity and character no longer matter. The presidential ego and self-preservation are more important than work. There's nothing left to
The protests may seem slow and senseless, but they hide many dangers within their hideously malformed bodies. A set of spikes lurks beneath the monster's flesh, and foul parasites nest within them. It is said that these horrors themselves are constructed by a greater evil, a darkness that I cannot even fathom.
That he and Joe McGuire have. But he makes a good point. Here is the Director of National Intelligence, Joe McGuire. An honorable man who served his country in the Navy as a SEAL and didn't campaign for this job and just tried to do his duty as he saw fit, looking at the oath of office and was trying to convey truth to power. And his reward for that was he got fired.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't attacking the president. He wasn't, speaking behind the president's back. He was reporting to Congress, which is what the job is.
Exactly. As required in the law. You're supposed to keep the Congress fully and correctly informed. And that's what the Office of Director of National Intelligence is. Now, the purge is underway.
Help me!
It's
inside me! Inside!
I think the objective here is to neuter ODNI as much as possible.
It seems like time seems all come together now, but it wasn't so long ago that advisors to the president of the White House would go on TV and say, well, look, the president, this administration is taking the concern about Russian interference incredibly seriously, et cetera, et cetera. The president continues to publicly, he's calling it disinformation. He's now fired the guy who's reporting to Congress about it. And a lot of the people who were saying, this administration is taking it seriously, they're gone too. They're all out. I mean, how concerned are you that this threat is not being taken seriously by this administration?
Well, I'm very concerned about it. And the threat that we portrayed in our assessment of journalists at the time still holds. The Russians, on the heels of the Wicked success in 2016, they're going to do it in 2020. And they really don't care about anyone. Their objective is to sow as much discord and distrust and dissent in this country as they possibly can. And we're already excelling in the elections months away.
The idea, I mean, to that point, it's also a point that Congressman Hines made moments ago on Twitter, which is it isn't about backing Sanders and backing Trump. It's about, or I mean, it may be, but it's certainly about
Exactly. And that was their objective in 16, and it always has been their objective. I mean, they have a long history of meddling in elections, theirs and other people's. And we have a history of it going back to at least the 60s. And just the magnitude of what they've lately done, notably in social media. And I suspect the reason for I use air quotes here, supporting Bernie Sanders, is that's a way to promote divisiveness within the Democratic Party. And it's just their cynical analysis of how to sow discord in this country, and they excel at it. They have a very sophisticated understanding of our political landscape.
Yeah, General Clapper, appreciate it. Thank you. Up next, more on the political legal dimensions and all this.
African Voices Changemakers. Create opportunities. Impact communities. Transform lives. This week, highlighting some of the biggest changemakers on the continent.
By conducting important conservation research, we are able to attract interest about these animals.
African Voices Changemakers on CNN in association with Glow.
This is the 100 Club. Our look at companies that are 100 years old or older.
Levi's jeans have weathered gold rushes and depressions. They've been part of movements to promote peace and tear down walls. They've been in movies, on album covers, and worn by everyone from Marilyn Monroe to Steve Jobs.
I think part of the love and romance of Levi's really begins with their origins. They began as workman's pants. Come on in. I'm going to go up here to XX. So here we have the oldest pair of blue jeans in the world. We call them XX. That's what they were referred to before we gave them the lot number 501. This is a very young picture of Levi. He arrived in America in the 1840s.
Strauss Levi Strauss and Company.
This is the patent that was granted to Jacob Davis and Levi Strauss and Company.
And in 1873, the blue jean was born.
Business never sleeps. As the sun sets in Seoul and Shanghai, deals are signed in Dubai, and Europe is already in play. New York prepares to make its first move. I'm Julia Chesley, journalist, global market analyst, and host of CNN's news business show, First Move. Join me in the financial capital of the world.
Wow, dude. This guy. This guy.
Traveling is not just about seeing places with the most likes or getting iconic photos.
Amazing.
It's about finding the city's DNA, leading people to share its secrets. It's about making discoveries that wow you and make you feel like a child again. It's a world of wonder. Now go and see it on CNN. In association with Turkish Airlines.
I'm Matt Rivers in Yokohama, Japan. This is CNN.
Before the break, you heard of Franklin Chile, former commander of U.S. Special Operations, about the stakes of suppressing facts and the truth in democracy. Let's get some perspective now from the New York Times contributing op-ed writer Rajat Ali, a senior contributor, also CNN senior commentator, former Republican presidential candidate Rick Santorum, former U.S. Senator from Pennsylvania. With this as well, Senior Legal Analyst Carrie Cordero, who serves at the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Senator Santorum, shouldn't the president be considering the president? Die.
Well, I think being cut out there, and that it leads to exactly what your previous guest talked about: dissension and conflict between Democrats and Republicans. And I think the president unfortunately played into that. I think you've seen Democrats react just the same way. Some, at least the ones in running for president, the same way, sort of trying to sow dissension, and which accomplishes exactly what the Russians hope to do, which is to sow doubt about the validity of our elections.
Right. Well, watch out. The president called this idea disinformation. Essentially, he was saying that this is misinformation. And
the specific thing about helping his campaign, I don't think he's saying that the Russians are involved in trying to affect the election as disinformation. I think everyone accepts that as the truth. I think the part about
he said he told
campaign is what doesn't accept it.
Yeah, he told Vladimir Putin that doesn't understand why they would be.
I mean, remember when he was standing next to Putin in Helsinki, like an infant lapdog, just reading on the intelligence station for the past 4 years?
But that's not what they
Let me just bring the receipts. Give me 30 seconds, just bring the receipts, and then let's debate it out, right? The reason why Trump is a Russian asset is trending is because Trump behaved like a Russian asset. Trump has said that his own intelligence agencies are part of the deep state. He throws them under the bus. That Russia interfered in the 2016 election. Instead, he believes Vladimir Putin. He promotes pro-Putin talking points. He attacks all of our allies, the EU, NATO, Open Skies Treaty. He is sending Attorney General William Barr on taxpayer dollars all around the world to gather evidence to promote a Russian conspiracy theory that Ukraine, not Russia, interfered in the 2016 election. Doing something as our commander-in-chief and promoting the election security bill that the House passed, he fired DNI McGuire for simply presenting him information. And if Putin's goal is to cause dissension, Putin's goal is to use democracy, if Putin's goal is to hurt our institutions, Trump is Putin's asset.
Yeah, the reality is that Donald Trump has been tougher on Russia than any president in recent history. And obviously, look at what he's done with respect to Ukraine and supporting them in the process, as well as a whole host of other things.
And blood occupation is a political resident.
So the idea that Donald Trump is objecting this is that Russia wants him to win. That's the objection.
Carrie, go ahead.
Anderson, okay, so we've outlined what the problem is, which the problem is that Congress needs to be able to obtain, and the public needs to understand exactly what the Russian activities are with respect to threatening and conducting activities to interfere in the 2020 election. And we have a president who is hostile to the intelligence community and doesn't accept or even want to be discussed with Congress that intelligence information.
Skeleton King? The power of the fallen star awakened me, and soon all will suffer as I have suffered. Gods, bring me his bones!
The robot testing needs to be conducted like it is every year, and they need to call the intelligence chiefs, including whoever happens to be the acting director of national intelligence on that day, along with the chief of the other intelligence elements who have information about the 2020 election threat, and they need to testify before the session. And what that is produce a written statement that the White House will see ahead of time, so there won't be a surprise about what's in the written statement. The second piece is that then members of Congress in open session can ask these officials under oath what the actual intelligence is. Now the risk is that the president might not like what is said in open session, and he might even fire people. But if that's what happens, then that will be information and a data point that the public will have to understand why he doesn't want this information out.
I fear the worst. I learned of this secret passage through old maps I
It seemed like
found.
doing what was his job, which is reporting to Congress.
Again, I mean, you know, there's been lots of reporting about what was actually said in that hearing and the amount of evidence that actually supported the idea, or intelligence that supported the idea that President Trump's campaign specifically was being helped. And I think that was the real concern. And of course,
I cannot open this.
Let's just be honest. I mean, the Intelligence Committee is where the impeachment, and Adam Schiff is where the impeachment came from. And so that's obviously a very sensitive point on the part of the president that this, what seems to be shaky information that they did not get a heads up on, was briefed to the committee that was that started the impeachment against him. Sorry, but where else are you going to go? That's it. Well, but I mean, there's
I have found Leah's uncle, Deckard Cain. He was pursued by a creature called the Skeleton King, who blocks the path to the fallen star.
But watch out. I mean, it's hard to imagine that the president was not also given the same information and informed whatever Congress was informed of, that it would have caught the president by surprise.
You're alive!
I mean, I just want to remind everyone that the president was impeached for trying to abuse his power to force Ukraine to interfere in our elections. He, in an interview with George
But I wish to know more about the fallen star.
He asked Russia.
The prophecy of the end days surely points to it as a sign that the end has begun.
Please, Uncle, not more of your stories. All that matters now is that you're back.
For Space Force? Why are you spending money to bail out farmers? That's socialism, by the way. Why don't you spend money to actually help our election? And another thing, if Donald Trump is watching, you criticize literally everybody. You criticize the movie Parasite. One tweet to criticize Vladimir Putin. I dare you to criticize him just once. Give me one tweet to prove that you're against him.
I watched all these and former appreciative Terry Cordero as well. More breaking news straight ahead involving Democratic candidate Michael Bloomberg and non-disclosure agreements with several women.
All new Inside Africa. Unlocking the mysteries behind the continent you thought you knew. This week, we go in search of the elusive African manatee.
Without understanding this animal, it's very difficult to work to save it.
Inside Africa, tonight, only on CNN in association with Zenith Bank. Connect the world with Becky Anderson.
It all starts here. Changing, fighting, creating, connecting. That's why we're here. We live here, we work here, we're from here, and we'll go wherever the story
The
takes us.
Skeleton King was once our beloved lord, Leoric. He was driven mad by Diablo's evil. He lost both of his sons and his very soul before he was finally defeated. Now it seems he's risen to plague this land once again.
I will find a way to lay him to rest.
The key to defeating him lies in his old crown. Seek out our blacksmith, Hadrig. He knows of its whereabouts. Clear. You should not dismiss the signs so lightly. Do you not believe the evidence of your own eyes?
The Oaks 14 is very interesting watching.
I have some new items that I'm certain each of my items is very special to me, but I suppose I can sell you one or two things if I must. Leah spent all night alongside the blacksmith's wife, tending the
And they
wound.
were all highly complicated watches that did something that no other watch could do. The Oaks 14 is a watch that looks a lot like a jukebox on the wrist. It shows the time in two different time zones.
but it does so by making what looks like a little record rise up out of a jukebox and rotate underneath a record player. It's very much a love it or hate it watch. I mean, I loved it just because I thought to myself, this is completely insane. Who does this? There was something super, super appealing about it. If you want something that is really, really different and that's going to be a conversation piece, it's one of the most interesting watches out there.
In this month on Top Asia, we speak to Saif Ali Khan about his wildly popular drama. What's your drama about?
He is very critical. This was thing gets amped up.
Filming in Mumbai, his hometown.
It's like when he's there, that movie something local and then send it internationally.
And what it's like growing up on screen.
It's a little exposed. I am Saif Ali Khan. Join me this month on Top Asia on CNN.
Sunday on CNN. And now get the floor to Clarissa Ward, CNN international correspondent.
Thank you so much. I've been a war correspondent for more than 10 years, and every terrible conflict that you can think of, but I have never seen anything on the scale like this.
This is happening right here, right now.
Life is dangerous. There are snipers all around. Is that what they want?
This is something happening.
This is one of the most unique environments on Earth. How many hours have you been on the road? The humanitarian crisis growing by the day. We've got to do justice to the story. How has your life been affected? I won't say you ever really make peace with it, but you can bear witness. There are very little signs of normal human life. You can't not feel somehow a personal impact. Clarissa Ward, CNN, London.
I'm Hala Garani in London, and this is CNN.
Well, breaking news tonight, this time from the Michael Bloomberg campaign. He says he will release 3 women who made complaints involving him from non-disclosure agreements. This after fellow Democrat Elizabeth Warren first raised the issue Wednesday night's televised debate.
The mayor has to stand on his record, and what we need to know is exactly what's lurking out there. He has gotten some number of women, dozens, who knows, to sign non-disclosure agreements, both for sexual harassment and for gender discrimination in the workplace. So, Mr. Mayor, are you willing to release all of those women from those non-disclosure agreements so we can hear their side of the story?
Just last night in the CNN town hall, Senator Warren offered this.
So, I used to teach contract law, and I thought I would make this easy.
How are we supposed to fight for style? The rest of the town is down to quarter, including my wife. Well, you can quit if you
I
want.
wrote out a release and
You
covenant
are the
not to
blacksmith, aren't
sue.
you? I have
And
a request.
Not now. Bloomberg has
It's
to
my
do
wife. She's
is
locked in the
download it.
cellar
I'll
like all
text
those
it.
who've been betting. I'm to put them all
Sign
down.
it.
But how can I kill my
And
own
Frequent
wife?
said Bloomberg said
Death
his
is a
company
path
identified
all
3
must tread.
NDAs signed in the past
Allow
30
me
years,
to
and
help.
women who contact the company,
Thank
he
you.
says, will be released
Follow
from
me.
those 3. Speaking with reporters tonight, Senator Warren says the release, quote, is just not good enough. Bloomberg, she says, needs to do a blanket release. Joining us now is Bloomberg senior advisor Tim Bryant, and author of the biography of President Trump. Tim, first of all, what changed? 24 hours ago, Mayor Bloomberg said on the debate stage that he was sticking with the non-disclosure agreements, that the women wanted it that way, that all the parties wanted it that way.
Well, Senator Warren is an insightful, courageous, and admirable public servant. I think it's wise for us to pay attention to anything that she highlights, and that's what Mike is trying to do here. I think I'm disappointed in how Senator Warren chose to put this on the stage. She made comments about quoted things that Mike allegedly said and didn't. I think she knew that. I think she's highlighting this issue to distract from the fact that Mike Bloomberg has a very admirable record in total around women in the workplace, women in his philanthropy, women our campaign platform is all about empowering women in all of those spheres. But obviously we can do better. I think a lot of the spin around this issue with sexual harassment, there were headlines that 40 or so women had sued Michael Bloomberg for sexual harassment. And I think some of the innuendo, all the stuff, the total number of NDAs, the bogus man Mike Bloomberg has personally further from the truth.
There's 3 cases.
In 3 cases over 30 years that Mike was
I couldn't
involved
have done this
directly
without
willing
you.
to
I'm in
lift
your
the NDA
debt.
on them
My name is
because
Hedrick
he's one of the
Amon.
parties involved.
There is a way you could
In the other
repay me.
cases is that other people
I
were
seek the
involved.
crown of King
And you're saying
Leoric.
the other
I can help
cases
you
at
there.
Bloomberg
It's buried
were
with his
related to
chancellor,
Bloomberg as a
my
company,
grandfather.
not to Michael
You'll
Bloomberg.
find his tomb in a cemetery
Correct.
on the
And
Weeping
a lot of these
Hall.
headlines, and look, I think
And
this
if you
is an
see my
important
fool
issue
apprentice
for us to
out there,
focus on.
tell him to
Me too,
get
era.
back to town.
Men have had their foot on women's necks for quite a long time, and we all need to be better around this. And I'm grateful to Senator Warren for flagging it. But I also think it's done an incredible disservice to what is true about Mike's record with women over dozens of years. I think the women who work for him, by and large, the vast majority of women who work for him know what he's done in terms of his respect for them in the workplace, his respect for them on this campaign, and his respect for empowering them at a time when Donald Trump is obviously on the other end of the spectrum.
Right. Can you guarantee that those 3 are the only NDAs involving Michael Bloomberg? Because the language is very specific in the mayor's statement, saying that these are NDAs pertaining to quote complaints about comments people say that he made. So just to be clear, are there any NDAs involving the mayor in matters besides language he allegedly used? Do you know?
I think it's my understanding from our lawyers looked at this extensively that over the last 3 decades, these were the only 3 that involved Mike directly.
And Senator Warren said tonight this isn't good enough, that the mayor should sign a blanket release now, says don't put the onus on the other party to seek a release from the company. Why did you set it up this way, that if when the contact goes through, when we contact the company, then that's the process?
Well, Senator Warren's a lawyer. She represented a lot of companies that sign NDAs. I think she understands that in many corporate cases, there's a standard way of trying to resolve litigation outside the court system and protect that party involved, not limiting
This
all of
will
them
be a challenge.
on us. I do think, however, that there's has been used to silence women in the workplace. I think that's a valid and important concern. And in fact, what Bloomberg has decided to do is to not use any evidence forward at all in any sort of sexual harassment claims that come up in the company. And I think Senator Warren highlighted that he's done a disservice to actually presenting an accurate portrayal of who Mike is over his life.
Your death nears.
So we have new We'll be right back.
What do you see as
The blacksmith's apprentice is free. Another disruption in the balance. Rathma has blessed me.
Someone may have fallen victim to human trafficking. It's happening right around us.
can abide you no longer.
Today we live in an unpredictable environment and news races around the world at breakneck speed.
I didn't know what his intention was. I knew it could be obstruction of justice.
My show brings you the latest news and top newsmakers. Are you playing fire? And we also dive below the headlines to explore vital issues impacting our lives.
It's about right and wrong, but you have to stand up for what you believe in. And we need to take action.
This world can abide you no longer.
We think there should be to a clean environment.
New Zealand had its experience in change its laws. To be honest with you, I do not understand the United States.
Does love have a chance? But we're not going to believe that. And fully understand the state.
Alan Paul, weeknights on CNN.
I'm Eleni Jokos, and this is CNN.
On a very busy night, there's yet more breaking news. The Washington Post reporting tonight that the president has, quote, directly weighed in, unquote, on the White House security review of John Bolton's upcoming book. The Post, citing two people familiar with the conversation, full circle or onto there anytime. News continues on more ahead. We'll hand over to Chris before prime time. Chris?
All right, thank you, Anderson. I am Chris Cuomo, and welcome to Prime Time. Big news. Russia is at it again. Trying to help solve again, and now we know, trying to help the
The night embraces you.
Buttigieg tonight. He needs a big finish, and he needs more than that. He needs big money. But first, we have to look at what the president did today. Supposed to do a job. The first job is what? Keep us safe. But what did he just do with this intel overhaul? What did he do when he found out that Congress was being told about the clearance? The White House says the president has been
an interesting opponent. This world can abide you no longer.
He put in place. And in fact, the senator played it differently to say honestly and confirm that he was briefed on the interference a month ago.
Mr. Putin is a thug. He's an autocrat. He may be a friend of Donald Trump's. He's not a friend of mine. Here's the message to Russia: stay out of American elections.
We don't hear that from the president. I wonder why. Why haven't we heard anything from Bernie about it until then? Is he not allowed to speak about it, or is there another reason? The question. Now, the president really asks for our attention. Not only is he changing people around, that's his right. Not only is he looking for loyalty, that's all he's looking for. Let's take this to another top player in the 2020 race with a big test in Nevada tomorrow, former Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Mr. Mayor, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
Today, the Russians are at it again. They want to help Trump, and they want to help Bernie Sanders. Why would they help Sanders?
Well, I don't think the Russians have a political party in the U.S. They want chaos, and we saw that they got just that by intervening to help Donald Trump. And of course, there's no question that they're going to be doing that in this election cycle too. And what we're seeing is this administration is doing nothing meaningful to demonstrate that they care about this or going to act to stop it. All the more reason for us to make sure that we are hard targets for misinformation as voters, and all the more reason for us to ensure that we are putting forward a candidate who who can defeat Donald Trump by a big enough margin that it's not even within interfering distance.
It's an interesting analysis, though, as to what their intentions are. Like, why not you? Why not Biden? Where, if they want to hedge their bets, you think they're thinking Bernie Sanders may win it all, so they want favor on each side, or do you think they think Bernie is the person who's easiest for Trump to beat? You're the one who was in the intel business in the military.
I'm not gonna try to get into Vladimir Putin's head. What I know is that this kind of interference is incredibly dangerous for our democracy. And we need a president who takes it seriously and is going to act to make sure that any power, whether it was Russia or anybody else, who even gets the idea of interfering in our elections, gets the message to our deterrents that it is not worth the attempt.
I'll tell you what, that's a tough message because it sure is worth the attempt. Look what they did to us the last time with the division. The president's doing it now to beat the Democrats. And even Bernie Sanders gets to use it as cover for what some of his supporters do in person and online. But remember that time. Speaking of Sanders,
during the last days of King Leoric's reign, even the skeletons of the ancient dead could not rest. They took up their broken armor and weapons once more, ready to cut down anything that yet drew breath. Though wasted and fragile, these creatures possess a twisted cleverness that makes them quite formidable.
Power has grown.
Has happened, at least in terms of this kind of pattern, has happened to no other campaign. And most of us don't believe that he speaks for the Democratic Party.
The tragedies in these lands have left many restless spirits in their wake, and they demand retribution. These spirits will take out their vengeance on any unsuspecting individual who may pass, for they believe that the blood of the living will yet restore the lives that were ripped away from them.
Decisively defeat Donald Trump in the fall. That was our focus on the debate stage. It's my focus right now, and we have got to pull together and make this happen.
I asked, obviously, because contextually, the most viral moments, the footage will be back and forth with you and Klobuchar. We are still waiting on the final count out of Iowa, but you have that edge. So, no matter what, Elizabeth Warren has raised a lot of money for having done well. Do you believe that she outperformed you in the debate?
No, really, you got to keep for America. Our campaign is fueled by grassroots contributions, and we know that we're going to need a lot of resources in order to compete. As a matter of fact, we set a goal of raising $13 million by Super Tuesday. I'm not a billionaire, I'm not even a millionaire. But what we know is that we were able to build a campaign that started a year ago with no name recognition, no national email list, obviously no personal fortune, none of the advantages that come with being a senator. And we can now reach this point where we work hard to earn every vote, every caucus goal here in Nevada, every voter in South Carolina, and on into Super Tuesday. And in particular, I'm speaking to Americans, the Democrats, who don't want to wake up the day after Super Tuesday. Bernie Sanders because a vision that says that you've either got to be for the revolution or you must be for the status quo. It's a vision where most of us don't see where we've been. And if we want to win, and if we want to go, we want to unify a country whose biggest problems include not only the terrible policies of the administration, but terrible division that we're experiencing in this country. We're going to need to do better in offering the candidacy that is designed to be respected.
The dark reality of politics is that the money is a major factor. You don't even have money right now to be putting it into Super Tuesday. Makes the chance of doing well there very small. Bernie, Biden, a lot of people are in the same boat. Bernie Sanders and Mike Bloomberg have the money. Don't raise the money. And after tomorrow, you have a solid victory in Nevada. Are you afraid that you don't have the money to compete?
Well, the reality is we are going to have to raise a lot in the coming days in order to be competitive on Super Tuesday. Now, my supporters have got us this far. We've had nearly 1 million people decide to contribute to this campaign. And I remember a year ago when our focus was, gosh, can we get the 65,000 individual donors we need to being one of the people that's where we supported people again. So, yes, this is and we're going to need to do a lot more than that. But
but we're also the best position to defeat Donald Trump. We're the best position to challenge Bernie Sanders. Again, I'm the only one who's beaten him at anything in the contests to date, and we've got to get together. If you don't want to wake up and find that he's the only one standing.
But it's not exactly what's going to happen. And you are surprised to be where you are. I think that's objectively true. If you don't get the exposure, you are fucked up. And yet, he's in the back now. You can't say he's broken out in any way except for Paul. Biden, Klobuchar, Buttigieg, I mean, you're all not out there. You're all going to be in the exact same position. Do you think it's going to be after Super Tuesday, a point where someone's got to drop out?
Well, that's for voters to decide, and voters in always have a chance to send a message tomorrow here in Nevada, soon in South Carolina, that, and then right after that on Super Tuesday, that we are ready for a vision that brings as many Americans as possible into the future, that harnesses the majority that already agrees on providing health care to everybody, just as long as we don't force it on anyone. That already agrees we got to raise wages, hold companies accountable, and do something about climate. Mine is the candidacy that can build that majority, not only to win the nomination, but to defeat Donald Trump. And this is our only shot to defeat Donald Trump.
Why do you think Bernie's on fire?
Well, again, it's all relative. He has not been able to command a majority, even in states where he did. Remember last time, remember New Hampshire, a majority voted for him last time. Not so much this time. Get it together soon, then we could be in a situation where he has an insurmountable lead.
But what do you think it is? He's been popping in the polls lately. Biden Bernie Sanders is doing better with older voters now than he was. He's better with minority voters now than he was. What do you think's happening?
Well, he's certainly speaking to progressive values that we all share. We all want to make sure that there is do something about raise taxes, I guess my point is we all want those things, but if we want to actually get them done, it's not going to happen with a my way or the highway politics. My way, the highway is the don't keep ourselves in a world where and the status quo. If you believe in that, if you believe let us come together in a campaign that win and that is prepared to build the coalition to actually govern effectively. Campaign we've never seen before. People who are more traditional, reasonable, let's say, a reasonable Democrat. You guys are getting squeezed on one side by someone who's only a Democrat who runs the president, and on the other side by somebody who's only a Democrat who runs the president. These two people are literally squeezing into polls all of the Democrats in the middle, making your race really two stages. How do you break out to be the Democrats and take on who isn't even really a Democrat except for right now? So Pete Buttigieg, I know you got your hands full, getting us a window into your where, and your how, right before Nevada. Because you know Bernie Sanders is doing comfortably in that state, but what about everybody else? This is a new state. Diversity comes into play in Nevada, and the result is going to drive for two states right around the corner. So, how does it go tomorrow? The Wizard of Oz with the real race, which is the second place. Next.
Traveling is not just about seeing places with the most likes or getting iconic photos. It's about finding the city's DNA, meeting people who share its secrets. It's about making discoveries that wow you and make you feel like a child again. It's a world of wonder. Now go and see it on CNN. The association with Jeffrey J.
Clothing chapter of Artists' presence, they have an absolute devastation in their wake. Extraordinary stand exactly where after 3 actively plotting attacks against the West, this is the strange evolving Syria games of fighting against ISIS, NATO ally facing
NATO ally. We're heading out deep inside the enemy territory. Instructions all created by the mad policy startup. This city almost constantly living with the threat of Russian invasion.
You are watching an Russian leads. There are 12 in front of us. We're holding this man.
This will be a challenge.
We asked President Lee how this could be allowed to continue. She tells us what's
for having nothing. For only centuries, thousands of domestic helpers have ever known who've suffered abuse and exploitation at the hands of their employers. We are introducing new false border guards. All of my false guards were themselves trafficked in brothels.
The Netherlands has been working alongside their co-designating states. These documents obtained by CNN outline the case they put forward against the
I have trained well.
Good words about security and nice words.
All human beings have inherent dignity and deserve to be free. When your freedom is tried, is when you really feel it.
We do not in a free world.
We also have to stand up and protect it.
Happy My Freedom Day to all of you students around the world, operating awareness in schools and in the communities, fighting the scourge of modern slavery and celebrating freedom.
Maybe in slavery. To me, freedom is being who you want to be wherever you are.
We will not rest until every living human being is free.
All new African Voices Changemakers.
Weakness consumes you.
African Voices Changemakers.
Holy shit! This guy is so good! He is so good!
All the big brains say that Nevada is Bernie Sanders to lose. Okay, but anything can happen. Certainly tomorrow, what the real race is going to be is a complicated battle for the nomination starting to roll out. Harriet, our Wizard of Oz, is here to break it down. And we see this as a window of what's to come because it's all about what happens after Sanders.
That's exactly right. I mean, look at this. Bernie Sanders right now has a 14 and 20 or 70% chance of winning according to the polling predictions in the past in the betting market. And that's actually gone up over the last week. But look at all these candidates right here. Biden, Buttigieg, Warren. All basically, between a 5 and 10% chance of winning. And if you're sort of translating that over to second place, right, it gives you an understanding that they are really tight in the polls. I'm not really quite sure which of these could appear in second and which one might end up in third or fourth place.
And what that means is that you're going to have this glut versus Bernie all the way to the convention if the state of play stays how it is now. This is an in-party problem.
Yes.
They have a new and developing problem out of party.
I would say that they most certainly do have a problem, and that is that the President of the United States seems to be getting more popular. So look, this is his overall approval rating. Just a few months ago, Election Day 2019 among voters, it was 43%. Look where it is now. It's 46%. And that's obviously not that great, but it's going in the right direction. And the question is, why the heck is that occurring? Well, I think it's occurring for two reasons. Number one, his approval rating on the economy is 54%, pretty high. I think it's really towards that. But I also think the Senate impeachment trial, the impeachment trial, probably helped him because if you look at the approval rating for saying, hey, the Senate acquitted him, 50% of Americans, the voters, approved of that. So I think impeachment, along with the economy, right now is driving these numbers a little bit up.
Now this, they know what they're doing. This, I don't think the Democrats quite understand yet the importance of the subject of our closing about why people like what Trump was about and don't like what this was about. So now, matchups.
Yeah, so of course, as we learned last time around, it was the electoral college that drove everything, right? Trump was
The embraces you.
We know the president does very well on that. And third, not a very large African American population, in Pennsylvania, especially Michigan, on the African American population. So those three factors are really driving the president to become more popular than the addition now. It's also so if you take the 2016 election, but Michigan and Pennsylvania go down, Wisconsin stays red. Look at how close this is. We end up
This world can abide you no longer.
Maybe come November and how much of a rate well, if it's 269, he goes to the House, and the party that has the majority of the state delegation ends up picking the winner right now.
The Democrats election, because you have a state election cycle also, went over some of the state legislation.
That's exactly right. In Florida, Montana, Alaska, they're all one seat away from flipping to the other side.
What chaos that is. Thank you very much.
This is going to be a very tight race.
The question is he really doing it to control what information gets to Congress about election interference and who knows what else? Is that okay? Is he putting himself before our collective safety? We have an influential GOP congressman on that issue. Next.
Only in South Africa.
Waited for this knowledge. Embraces you.
This guy is so OP! Oh my god!
What's your drama about? It was very critical. It's one of the things that's amped up.
I think the crown is nearby.
And what it's like growing up on screen. It's a little exposed. I am 75. Join me this month on Talking Show on CNN.
Sunday on CNN. I never had the info of Eastern DLC.
that monster Leoric back to this world.
Business is all about making connections. Some connections are easier to make than others. With a CNN Park Hotel,
I'm
the world is
returning
always
to
at your
town.
fingertips. CNN Park Hotel, connected to your world.
News to weeknights. Welcome to the lead on Dick Tampa. We're going to begin with the politics lead, and one of the biggest bombshells today, the strength of unity. That seems to be, to me, completely contradictory.
You love.
It's all food for thought when you and the public are trying to decide who to trust and what back down. We're getting a new look at the headwinds that congressional Republicans already are facing. A monumental day in our politics. The Lead with Jake Tapper. Weeknights on CNN.
I'm Will Ripley in Yokohama, Japan, and this
CNN.
Russia is at it again. Fact. But we're hearing two very different responses from the president and the Democratic frontrunner, Bernie Sanders, both of whom, supposedly, Russia is trying to boost. Now, let's get some thoughts on this from Kentucky Republican Congressman James Comer. Always great to have you on the show, sir. Thank you, especially on Friday night.
It's great to be back on your show, Chris.
Starting point, Russian interference, them messing with our election, no matter who they're helping, no matter who they're trying to hurt. Is this a priority for you in terms of finding ways to fix?
Absolutely. I've said from the very beginning that Russia's a bad actor, Putin's a bad actor, and we have no business having any confidence that Russia's going to try to stay out of the elections. That's why I and just about everyone in Congress voted to put more sanctions against Russia. We're serious about Russia staying out of our election, and hope that they never do that again.
All right, so then it comes to how do you combat it here at home? Now, we've talked previously about the president wanting to reorganize and have new people in different places. That's his prerogative. That he is looking for loyalty as a primary commodity. You can call that politics as normal. Then you get into the pedigree of those people, and you start having battles about what's a good pedigree, what's a bad pedigree. Now there's a bigger concern. If the reporting is correct, and David Nunes came to the president and said, hey boss, they're trying to let these Democrats have more ammo about this Russian interference that's going again, and that is driving our president to try to manipulate the intel community to silence that kind of reporting to Congress. You cannot be in favor of that, sir, can you?
Well, I don't know that David Nunes did that. We haven't been able to confirm that meeting ever happened. I'm going to assume as of now that it did not happen, but I'll tell you.
Why not assume that it did? That is the reporting from several different sources.
Well, one thing that I know for certain is Adam Schiff, Nunes' counterpart, and actually chairman, he has consistently been leaking intelligence to the press. That is a violation of Congress. That's a violation of the oath he takes as a member of the Intelligence Committee. I think Adam Schiff's done more damage to the institution of Congress.
The reporting is not that this came from Schiff, and whether it came from Schiff or Nunes, let's say this, it was neither of them, but it came out. The idea of the President of the United States saying, I don't want Congress getting this information about election interference. It's bad for me. Shut up. You like that?
I don't think that that's what upset the president. It's my understanding that the president was upset that he heard about it in the news, that the intelligence people went to Schiff and possibly Nunes and briefed them before they briefed the president, and they're having to defend something that they don't have any idea what they're about to defend.
Well, why do you believe that? Because we don't have any reason to believe that they went to Congress before they went to the president. And by the way, there are many instances where they're supposed to go to Congress. This isn't about like we're about to get attacked, who you go to first. This is about members of the intelligence community doing what they're supposed to do, is tell people on committees like yours, here's what's going on, act.
That's right. And, there's just definite lack of confidence in the intelligence community by many Republicans, and especially by the president. That's why he's obviously trying to do the shakeup, and I think that's warranted. If you go back to George W. Bush, when the intelligence community reported that Iraq had definite weapons of mass destruction. There's been some bad decisions and bad advice given by the intelligence community, and the president simply wanting to put new people in the office. And Grinnell is on a temporary basis. I think he stated today that he plans to return to his post as ambassador to Germany. So I think the president's doing what needs to be done. And the president's also very frustrated in Congress, and I'm sure with both parties, leaking classified information.
Listen, the last part, it's just hard for me to believe because I've never seen anything like the way this White House does. But let's put that to the side because we have something else. The WMD discussion, the yellow cake discussion that came out of the Bush White House, absolutely would be reason for concern. But this president isn't concerned with getting it right. And you just said you agreed with the analysis that Russia is interfering once again. There's almost unanimity on it unless somebody's playing politics. So it's not about the information being wrong. It's about the information being right. And the president not wanting Congress to know about it, how can he put his own political interest before national security?
What the president's frustrated with is that there's this assumption that Russia is trying to help the president and the president colluded with Russia. I think that's been proven through the Mueller report. There was no collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. And there's no guarantee. Many Republicans think that Putin and Russia would prefer to have Bernie Sanders as president. I mean, after all, Bernie Sanders is a socialist. He identified with the former Soviet Union early on in his career. So there's no guarantee that Russia wouldn't prefer Bernie Sanders over.
But either way, you're making my point. Congressman, you're making the exact point I'm making to you. We know they're trying to help Bernie. We know they're trying to sow chaos. They know they're trying to help Trump. Trump only hears the part about him. He goes right to collusion where you went. I didn't even bring up the word. I'm not saying that the president has anything to do with aiding Russian interference. I'm saying that you need to know about Russian interference in Congress because you have to keep me and the rest of the voters safe. And if the president has the intel community not give you that kind of information because he's frustrated or he's mad at the right, he's mad at the left, or he doesn't trust it, it's bad. Those are all bad reasons, aren't they? Don't you have to get the information?
I agree that Congress needs the information. I want the information. But the problem is the information's been bad, the information's been skewed. You take James Comey, I don't think, in hindsight, he has a lot of credibility in that.
But he's gone. I'm talking about today.
That's right.
But he's gone.
I know. But there are a lot of holdovers in the intelligence community.
But he did this today, and it's his guys who are in charge of this. Right? This was his guy in charge of it.
Right. And the president is doing everything in his ability, I think, to restore credibility to the intelligence community.
How does it restore credibility? If you tell the intelligence community you can't give Congress bona fide information because it's bad for me.
We don't know that the president said that. That's being reported from anonymous sources. I don't believe that the president would say that. The president's frustrated that information being given to Congress is constantly leaked.
That is not possible.
And the president's frustrated that
Congress was his problem. He doesn't want the Democrats to have it. And he did not reject the story. The White House has not come out and said it's not true.
Right. And you're a smart guy. You're from a political family. Would you have confidence in Adam Schiff having any type of information from the intelligence community? Everything Adam Schiff has done over the past 3 years is to try to impeach Donald Trump.
This is about the interference process. I agree with you. And I don't know that coming from a political family and being intelligent go together, but I'll take it for the purposes of this discussion. I'm saying it's about the interference, not the politics. You know, whatever Schiff does with the information, he should be judged. Whatever Nunes, whatever the committee does and does not do, should be judged. But you've got to get the information, Congressman. And I just think that you have to be careful about making excuses for the president for not letting information get out. Until we know that the information is allowed to come out, you should be very skeptical. Isn't that a safe assumption?
I want the information. Every member of Congress in both parties wants the information, but we have to do something about the credibility in the intelligence community. We have to do something about the constant leaking from members, especially Democrat members, on the Democrat members on the intelligence committee, and it's a huge problem.
But stopping the intelligence community from going to congressmen is not the answer to that.
I do not think I do agree with that. I do not think the president wants to do that. But when we talk about Russian interference, there's one thing that we need to know here. What they did in the last election, they bought some Facebook ads, and that's bad. And I will never get over that. They bought Facebook ads.
They bought Facebook ads, they had emails, they gave them their ads, they did it for distribution. I'm not saying it has an effect on the outcome, but it can't be good. Right. And we need to stop it, and that's why I'm having the conversation. Congressman James Comer, thank you for having the conversation with me.
Thank you for having me on, Chris.
Be well, have a good week. All right, listen, this is something where you got to be on the same page. And the idea that the president may be putting his own interests over the national interests here is a problem. There are two people who know the stakes, who know the flow of what happened here and why it matters. We'll take it to them. Next.
Cristiano Ronaldo in Amsterdam, Jerusalem, Sarajevo, Afghanistan. I'm Cristiano Ronaldo in Iran with elements of the Galilee division in Israel. As gas fell, people were still marching. Here we are in Havila, a village that has not had any food distribution since June. When the families have finished looking at the names that are posted on those boards, they come here. This is now a memorial to the victims of the Cervantes massacre. Where in the Quran does it justify the killing of innocents? We're very interested to see what's going on here. Mr. President, do you not think that the constant flip-flops of your administration on the issue of Bosnia sets a very dangerous precedent? This is a pretty shocking picture. Would you condemn President Assad for 100,000 first deaths? You still have huge dreams. They didn't take that away from you.
They only can shoot a body, and they cannot shoot my dreams.
I wonder whether you ever think that other countries can learn from what you did. I'm sure you must be their first cycling president. Of course not. Sound like Mr. President. You were the first person to call modern slavery and human trafficking a crime against humanity. She says yes. Women are the future. Can I just address the elephant in the room? You're wearing your dark glasses.
You found the crown. Truth be told, I didn't think you'd make it back alive. It needs repair. Should be no problem. It's good to work again. There. New as the day it was placed upon the Black King's head. I need something more than making spades to occupy my mind. I want my life to mean something.
There is no higher calling than serving talents. The priests of Rathma would welcome your aid. But I should tell you, during my travels, I found the body of your apprentice. It was a quick death.
Poor boy. Hope for the worst and you will not be disappointed. Thank you for the news.
We live in such a fast-paced world where the news has been so relentless. Historic events have happened one after the other. I think that you need that daily appointment with viewers around the world to try and sort through the news of the day. What's important? Why does it matter to me? How do I put it all in context? We follow the news as it happens and where it happens. And then we also take a step back to walk the viewer through the day's news. That is the mission of Hologram tonight.
Becky Anderson in Abu Dhabi, and it's CNN.
Be clear about the facts. The president tweeted Democrats were making up Russian interference again. He tweeted, you'll see it. First, Russia did interfere the last time. It wasn't made up. And it was his own intel folks that say they are up to it again, helping him and helping Bernie Sanders. The Democrats didn't make it up. His people in the intel agencies went to Congress. It was brought to them. Here's the outrage. That the President of the United States wouldn't want Democrats, or even Congress for that matter, briefed on election interference.
I have retrieved
Our
the crown.
investigators, Andrew McCabe and Maren McCord, are here to discuss.
With it, you can unlock the sealed door in the room where you rescued me and enter the royal crypts. When you find the skeleton king, place the crown atop his head and destroy him.
There is no other way to reach the Falling Star, it seems. These elections until we get it's all clear from the president that it's okay to do so. Impact.
Well, it's really frightening. I mean, it's of course routine and required that the intel communities regularly brief the intelligence committees on both the House and Senate side. They also regularly brief others within the administration about threats to our national security, including foreign election interference. And the thought that there would be any effort to change or modify or squash any information that the intelligence community gathers that's important for the whole of our government to respond to is a very frightening prospect, and it sounds like a very authoritarian type of government that the administration is seeking here.
The president's defenders, Andrew, say, no. You're supposed to tell the president first. How often is that the case?
So in some cases it actually works out that way. So I can tell you that in my
I can bring that down. My essence is too low.
Before we provide that briefing to the committee, we would provide it to the President's Homeland Security Commander, and we would provide it to the Director of National Intelligence, simply so they knew what material we were sharing with Congress. We didn't get any editorial suggestions telling this or don't tell them that. It was just a matter of keeping everybody coordinated. But the President would tell the agencies who are required to keep Congress informed, required by law, significant particular threat streams that the President finds uncomfortable it is confounding, and it is putting the President's interests in front of the national security of the country.
And he's doing great. And of course, he was twice as sharp as I am on my best day. And he said, here's the risk of playing to what you said he's working. This is the president installing a political
He was locked down, and I'm cursed. Once the captain of King Leoric's army, I left only to honor my land and my king. No man has a greater love for his king than I have for mine, even as I drove my blade through his dark and heart.
And you will have a killing effect that will definitely affect national security. Too heavy hands.
The community makes it their day-to-day job to be non-partisan, right, and to never be influenced by politics, because their job is to assess the intelligence to policymakers and decision makers. And when there is influence on them for political purposes, that throws the entire mission out of whack. And certainly without fearing that people still partly.
I cannot open this. This world can abide you no longer. I have long waited for this bridge. This world can abide you no longer.
fighting America is infinitely better than a united, focused, committed America, right? We are their existential enemies to the greatest extent that they can sow chaos, division, and discord here. That is that's their goal, that's their biggest objective. So in fueling both sides, and further pitting one side against the other, that's the objective they are pursuing. So I also just want to quickly, so the idea that the Russians, through this activity, have actually succeeded in separating the American president from his own intelligence infrastructure. I mean, that's every intelligence officer's greatest dream. Is actually isolating the president away from those intelligence professionals who are in a position to give him the best, most direct advice on these issues, and he is now compelled to replace those people with political loyalists. That is an incredible coup for the Russians.
Well, you got to look at it from Trump's perspective. If there's election interference and it's good for him, good. And if there's election interference and it's bad for him, he doesn't want to hear about it. That's his disposition. And I think when people look at it that way, you'll see why he's doing what he is doing. Andrew McCabe, Mayor in the court, thank you for helping us make sense of it, especially on Friday night. Be well. All right, so here we are, we're getting into the election. All right? And I don't think that the Democrats understand the reality of what they're up against in November based on what we've heard so far. And I don't think that Trump supporters, seeing what's going on in their so far as well. I know
it's about finding the city's dead, meeting people who share secrets. It's about making discoveries that wow you and make you feel human. It's a world of wonder. Now don't see it.
Maintain your ignorance. Now, back to my mission. Why? You will know soon enough. Help me find my gear. I will reward you well.
Tell me, what brought you to this infernal place?
I must slay the skeleton king. Then our aims align.
The company is destructive by design, all in the name of safety, dating back more than 100 years.
So it's 1893, and Chicago was hosting the World's Fair, a Columbian exposition, and the fair was going to be eliminated with flights. And the underwriters to the fair started getting a little concerned about what is this electricity? We actually need someone to inspect the fair. So then in 1894, Underwriters Laboratories was founded by William Henry.
The cultists dragged me past this glowing pit. What made
on the list?
Manufacturers applied and had the products
Down this way. There are my weapons.
Underwriters Laboratories one time, that was a lot of real estate on the product, and we had to shorten it.
I am Cole, warrior of the Templar Order. If it is the Skeleton King you seek, then you will have to fight your way past John Dar. There is no reason we should hunt alone.
If you insist.
Very serious national security question coming off Mr. Trump's back.
Luther King Jr. will be very disappointed.
Living and working in the US right now gives me an
How do you balance your politics and the need to make a statement? Why do you think it's important to do what you did today?
magic bars our way, but the will of a Templar is stronger.
An interesting opponent.
This week, we go in search of the elusive African manatee.
Without understanding this animal, it's very difficult to work to save it.
Inside Africa, tonight, only on CNN in association with Zenith Bank.
I'm sitting down for two reasons. One, my hip hurts, and second, I don't want you to think that I'm talking at you. I just want you to hear this out for a second. Argument for both sides. And my Democratic brothers and sisters, you need to see what people do. Trump told people with legitimate rights exactly what they wanted to do.
We're going to Washington, and we are going to drain the swamp. We got a lot of bad people in that swamp, those swamp creatures that go over there.
Yeah, they're all over his administration, and he's supposed to be one of the biggest. But I'm going to get to that in a second. Look, Democrats, the frustration is real in big swipes of this country. The desire to see the players played with dominates everything. Hear every piece of these people's rights.
They're afraid Trump's not messing their whole club. And that's what we need. We need the club shaken up. He speaks his mind. And he's not a puppet.
This country is so dang political correct. I mean, you can't say anything. I mean, I'm afraid to say what I really feel.
Hear them? More importantly, ignore them at your own peril. Again, they're not asking for a granular plan of how many years and how many dollars over how much time for health care. They just want to know if you get that the system does them dirty. So when you attack Trump, you have to make sure you're not attacking their anger. That's why that deplorables line for Hillary.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
Look, half, what, any amount. Trump supporters now literally wear the term as a badge on. And look, make no mistake, there are hateful folks who see Trump as a champion of their bigoted ideas. But there are so many more who want you to address this. Government wastes the money, passes laws that players can get around, corrupt with money, connections to power in this two-tier justice system, policies that they have to pay for but don't benefit from. Politicians lie, connive, they pick winners and losers, and Wikipedia, they push political correctness to the point of paralysis. Trump convinced many who feel like that, and there are a lot. He hates the same things. That he is the system's perfect nemesis. Nemesis as defined in the cult classic Snatch.
Do you know what nemesis means? A righteous infliction of retribution manifested by an appropriate agent.
It did not end well for them. But in essence, Trump is payback. And that's what they want. And no insider, therefore, can say that what he does is wrong. Because you do it too, in their opinion. So everything he does wrong, you do. He's just fair at it and open about it. He's playing a game that's all about openness. You're part of that game. Now, yes, Sanders, Warren, they say they want to attack the system too. But they're politicians, they're insiders. And they're pitching
You're a Templar
not too easy for rich people, but they're not going
The coven is my brotherhood now.
Democrats, don't think about it.
Please forgive me. My vision was clouded by the coven's evil magic. Betrayal can never be forgiven.
He or she can connect with the real offset that's out there.
Thank you for your aid. I will go with you on your hunt for the Skeleton King. But there is one condition. If we find the sacred tomes of my order,
and win with you, and you'll get a mandate. Now,
do as you please. Such books do not interest me.
Then onwards we go to fight the Skeleton King.
Players on the inside and part of the problem. I get it. But you're saying, you just suggest that he's not delivering? Yes, I do. Why? I think you're missing devilry for delivery. You have to look at the real difference between putting America first and putting himself first. Yes, your man has messed with everything. Defied the courts and Congress. He's done all the bad things that you think the others do. He's done it bigger and badder, has them crazy, tells them off to their faces like so many of you wish you could. Badass. But is it better? Look at just today. His intelligence forces, the intel people going to Congress to warn that they need to find ways to stop real who cares?
I tried to count how many we've killed,
but I've lost any more intelligence like that is frightening. Be honest. You know they need to know so they can do something about it. It's not just how it plays politically for him. You know it can't be that way. That's not America first. He thinks Russia can play well. Even though it's our election security at stake. Is that better? Is Congress getting more done? The great deal maker? Has he made any deals with Congress? He's made himself look like a big deal. A tax cut for the rich and a deficit you're going to have to pay for. Cuts to entitlements he said he wouldn't touch. Healthcare, immigration. Nothing solved. What happens with 4 more years? Being bad, making it better. And Canada relate to what's really wrong and show there is a better way to do it right. That's what election is about. That's my argument. Next, the bolo. You work in the Trump administration. Look out. Someone's having their eyes on you. African Voices Changemakers. Create opportunities.
Power grows.
Transform lives. This week, highlighting some of the biggest changemakers on the continent.
By conducting important conservation research, we are able to attract interest about these animals.
African Voices Changemakers on CNN in association with Glow.
Lazarus. Of that I am certain. He alone had the king's ear, and whispered dark and evil magics into it, instilling the notion of an imminent attack by Westmarch. Afraid to speak against the Archbishop, the councillors nodded their empty heads in agreement, and sent himself to die.
What's your drama about?
It was very difficult. This voice thing gets amped up.
Feeling mobile to Chantal.
It's really good and making something local and then selling it internationally.
And what it's like growing up on a screen.
It's a little exposed. Hi, I'm Stephanie Khan. Join me this month for my 12th
I'm on a tour in the city of London.
every terrible conflict that you could think of, but I have never seen anything on the scale. Here, right now. One is dangerous,
The grave beckons.
How many hours have you been on the road? The humanitarian crisis.
Well, by today, we've got to justice to the story. How has your life been affected? I won't say you ever really made peace with it, but you've been bear witness. There's very little time of normal human life you cannot feel some level of personal impact. Clarissa Ward, CNN, London.
I'm Minister Alex Harris, and this is CNN.
Bolo time, that means be on the lookout. The president's former body man is now personnel chief. John McEntee is there to look for anyone less than loyal to Trump. Not the law, their oath, to Trump. Is that America first?
Rathma has blessed me.
All over the top. He finds those who are not on the Trump list. McEntee will focus first on those working at state and defense. Now, it's true, of course.
When we returned from our horrific defeat in Westmarch, my beloved king lost all pretense of sanity. He seethed with rage, spitting curses upon us as traitors. With great sorrow, I ran him through.
War on any perceived dissent. For those who war no matter what they see or hear, my brothers and sisters, be on the lookout. Thank you for watching CNN Tonight with D. Lennon.
You'll see nothing. It's only thing it works. Really? He's emboldened, really. He's emboldened, brother.
Oh, he is emboldened. He has been set free. When you know that your party won't do anything to check you, he doesn't even have to think twice. Look what he did with this intelligence sweeping the Congress. He didn't even wait long enough to hear about the part about Bernie Sanders. Now he knows what's in the government. I wonder why we didn't hear it.
Well, he said his intelligence didn't say anything, but I don't know. Why didn't he say anything? Why didn't he? Good to know. It would have been good to know a month ago, right? Not supposed to. It was the same when they came after one person, I didn't say anything, and then they came after that person, and they came after that person. Finally, it was nobody left.
You know who's going to be there when they come for you,
Not you.
No, here comes the vanilla gorilla. Galloping up right by yourself.
You know what? I'm not going to deny that. Vanilla gorilla is right. Because he could, what was it? We call it purple. You sure end up. Is not just interfering in our elections, this president, we're talking
American elections. And what they are doing, by the way, the ugly thing that they are doing, and I've seen some of their, their tweets and stuff.
Must serve the cycle.
For helping you.
So Bernie Sanders says that his campaign
Contend with evil is the essence of what it
on
means
Russia's
to be.
efforts to help them, and he implies that the news of the briefing was leaked to hurt his.
Since you came out a month ago, how did you came out now? If you had the briefing a month ago.
We'll let you guess. One day before the without books. Why you think it came out? It was the Washington Post. Good friends.
So I'm going to ask you about that a little bit later on the show, so make sure you stay tuned with that. But as much as this president doesn't want you to
The night embraces you.
It looks like things are working out just the way Vladimir Putin wants them to. So let's not forget that Robert Mueller included Russian emails like this one of February 2016, quote, main idea, use any opportunity to criticize Clinton and the rest, except Sanders and Trump. We support
Weakness consumes you.
Our opponents may be strong, but I will not stand down.
Of course, telling CNN, what the president was really frustrated about was his fear that Schiff could use that intel against him politically. Now, a White House official says that the president has been briefed on Russia's attempts to help Senator Sanders. But we don't know exactly when that briefing took place. Listen to this. This is from the president today, talking about Russia's efforts.
I will forever live in anguish for my last attempt to honor my king. As we laid him to rest in his burial chamber, he manifested as a hideous skeletal demon. Gorash and my other knights were overcome at once, but I fought on.
That Putin wants to make sure I get elected. Listen to this. So, does he want to see who the hell is? Would he rather have, let's say, Bernie?
The president sure does mention Bernie Sanders a lot of times. You gotta wonder whether Putin is the only one who wants to see Sanders as a Democratic nominee, running against Trump.
I see these phonies, these do-nothing Democrats. They said today that Putin wants to be sure that Trump gets elected. Here we go.
No, not bored. Definitely not bored. Disturbed. Concerned.
That is not possible.
Worried about the safety of our country. All of those, but not bored. Interestingly, former acting, there's that word again, acting again, former acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker, warning that Russia is trying to interfere in 2020.
I'm never going to deny that Russia tried to interfere in 2016, they tried to interfere in 2018, and they're trying to interfere in 2020.
That is interesting. It's interesting that the former acting AG, the man who replaced Jeff Sessions, who was hounded out of the office by Trump for recusing himself of the Russian inquiry, agrees with officials who told this president exactly what he doesn't want to hear.
Foreign actors will view the 2020 U.S. elections as an opportunity to advance their interests. We certainly are seeing, and never stopped really since 2016, efforts to engage in malign foreign influence.
Right now, Russia's security services and their proxies are geared up to repeat their interference in the 2020 election. We're running out of time to stop them.
They're doing as we sit here. And they expect to do it during the next campaign.
Official after official, stepping up and saying the same thing. That Russia is interfering again. And in the face of all of this, with Russia continuing to attack the foundation of our democracy, our free and fair elections, what is this president doing? He's cleaning house, purging anyone who tells him what he doesn't want to hear. Sources are telling CNN that the president's new personal chief, his former body man, John McAtee, is telling agency officials that he's on the lookout for any staffers who aren't sufficiently loyal to Trump. And what could be an ominous note, he said he's focusing on the State Department and Department of Defense. One White House official saying, quote, not a good idea on this part.
You dare to bring the life into my tomb?
Maybe.
We shall put you down, Hellspawn.
At least one person, the audience of one in the White House. Today, we saw included in that briefing to Congress. And let's not forget, he was also in the doghouse for saying the whistleblower acted in good faith and followed the law. Admiral William McRaven, who has known McGuire for more than 40 years, writing an op-ed in the Washington Post. Good men and women, Joe was dismissed for doing his job, overseeing the dissemination of intelligence to elected officials who needed accountability. As Americans, we should be proud. We should pray for the future of the nation. When good men and women can't speak the truth, when facts are inconvenient, when integrity and leadership no longer matter, when presidential ego and self-preservation are more important than national security, then there is nothing left to stop the tide of evil. McGuire's second in command, Andrew Haldeman, also stepping in and putting out a statement that you could read as a message. And I quote, "I have complete confidence in the and enduring stability, integrity, and relentless dedication to serving the nation." Qualities you could say are in short supply right now. All that coming as McGuire's totally unqualified replacement, Trump loyalist Richard Grenell, is doing his real job protecting the president. The New York Times reporting that Grenell has requested the intel behind the classified briefing last week. And as acting DNI, he has access to all the secrets, no matter how
I'm glad that
unqualified.
fate has brought us together
So with all
on
of
this
that,
path.
the flag
Why
includes
is that?
attacking the heart of our
You
democracy.
fight with both
So in
honor and
chaos
ferocity.
our free and
I
fair
know that a
election,
pure soul
with the Nevada
must burn
caucus is
within
hours
you.
away, the President of the United States is out on a vengeance tour, purging his enemies list. The question is, what will happen in November? Is all of this working out just the way Vladimir Putin wants it to? Is the chaos the point? Max Booth, Susan Hennessy, Michael D'Antonio. We'll talk about it next.
Traveling is not just about seeing places with the most likes or getting iconic photos.
Amazing.
It's about finding the city's DNA, meeting people who share secrets. It's about making discoveries that wow and making champion. It's a world now built in association with Turkish Airlines.
You will never defeat me!
You were defeated the moment you surrendered to madness.
Wanting to send money to her family, but having nothing.
The only century thousands of domestic helpers have ever known who've suffered abuse and exploitation at the hands of their employers.
Anurada introduces me to Mighty Nepal's crew border guards. All of Mighty Nepal's guards were themselves trafficked into brothels.
Lieutenant Hathaway, alongside that
Proclaimed Leoric King of Honduras many years ago. He ruled well until Diablo's influence drove him mad, and the loyal knight Black Danon was forced to slay him. Afterward, Diablo himself raised Leoric from the dead as the Skeleton King, until the monarch's son, Aiden, vanquished him.
Changing fighting, creating, connecting. That's why we're here. We live here, we work here, we're from here, and we'll go wherever the story takes us.
The
We
crater.
are in Jerusalem. Real news that shapes our world. Exploring not just what's going on, but why. I just want to press you on one further front. Getting perspective on this region from this region. Places that many of us know, but few
This
of
is
us get to
unexpected.
see.
How did you come here?
I remember falling.
Who are you?
I am not your enemy. I think, yes, I believe I have come with a warning. The darkness is coming, and I must
You must get to safety. Then you will find answers.
This week, we go in search of the elusive African manatee.
Without understanding this animal, it's very difficult to work to save it.
Inside Africa, tonight, only on CNN in association with Zenith Bank.
We are learning a lot more tonight.
I believed it was a fallen star, but in truth, it was only a man. And of course, his memories have vanished. Perhaps Deckard Cain will know more.
Here to discuss Max Boone, Susan Hennessy, and Michael D'Antonio. Good evening, one and all. So, Max, I'm going to start with you. Russia is now trying to help Bernie Sanders while the president is claiming that this is all a misinformation campaign launched by the Democrats. Russia succeeded.
I found him in the crater.
No man could survive such a thing. Who are you? What are you?
Trump is basically sending a message loud and clear that he does not want anybody in the government, certainly nobody in the intelligence community, trying to stop Russia from attacking our election again, as they attacked in 2016. Telling the truth about what the Russians are up to, that is a firing offense. And it was very striking to me when this news came out about Bernie Sanders and the Russians perhaps helping him, which I would surmise they might be doing because they think that
Tell me
Bernie Sanders would be a
everything you
candidate
remember,
that Donald
stranger.
Trump can defeat in the
Every
fall.
detail.
But at least Bernie Sanders, to his credit, said Putin has no business interfering in American politics as president. I will ensure that he does not do that.
It
Have you
shattered
ever
into
heard Donald
three
Trump say
pieces as I
remotely
fell.
similar to that? Of
It
course
is
not, because
vital that we
Donald Trump
find those
is
pieces.
abdicating his
I believe the
responsibilities as
sword
president.
made
He is
whole
actually
will
tasked with once
restore
again
your memory.
encouraging Russian
Men are
interference.
rampaging
This is
through
a
the
very
fields.
frightening
Could the
moment,
sword have
Yeah.
anything
So
to do
hear
with
what Matt
that?
said.
Of
Do you think
course,
the
of
Russians,
course.
do you think the
Just
Russians
as
think
the
that
dead
Sanders
rose
is not
around the
able to
stranger, the
President
sword
Trump?
pieces drove the
I
goatman to
don't think we can
madness.
say what exactly the Russians are
It's
thinking right now, in part because
We'll have our
reporting
answers
is
once
based
I
on the
retrieve the
various
sword.
leaks coming out of congressional committees, but it's really difficult to know what exactly the motivations and the question might be and what the intelligence finding actually is. That's what I think Max is absolutely right, that the contrast between how Bernie Sanders responded and how President
business
Trump
will pick
has
up now that the
responded
Skeleton King is
now
dead.
is really remarkable. Think about what candidate Trump did whenever he heard that Russia might be attempting to help in the election. Right? He made sort of coy statements like, Russia, if you're listening. He welcomed that assistance. He made it known publicly that he was open for business. Instead, the Sanders campaign came out and said, this is not acceptable. We're not going to tolerate this. And if I'm elected president, the Russians are going to pay the price. It's not that hard to get this right. It's not based on some sort of specific ideological position. It's not that difficult to just tell Russians, do not interfere or meddle in our elections or our democratic processes, or you will pay the price. And so that raises the question, why is it so difficult for the President of the United States to bring himself to say that?
Listen, a big part of this also, Michael, and let's be honest, is the president's paranoia when it comes to talking about Russian interference in our elections. I mean, we're seeing that personality trait here too, right?
Well, we are actually, we're seeing a very complex game of paranoia because the Russians have declared that Americans must be paranoid because, my goodness, they're not doing anything to us. And then the president is saying that Democrats are making this up, it's a hoax.
you know, the net result of all of it is chaos. I'm reminded of the Republican activists who want to conduct an Operation Chaos in South Carolina to somehow confuse Democrats as they go to their primary. I don't think that chaos is a wise public policy standard for us to be considering or a wise political standard, but I suspect that the president sees advantage